Hello, hello! You're listening to The Journey is the Destination. With you today, Emma and Christian and Julie!
Woohoo! So today we have one of the most inspiring conversations. Julie is full of surprises and she's a great example of living from the heart and following your purpose on this earth.
Yeah, just spending some time with her was super inspiring, but also just like super fulfilling because she's a beautiful person with a beautiful big heart.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, I'm really excited to share this inspiration with you, and I think it's the best we just stop talking.
Yeah. So I hope you will enjoy it.
Let's get into it.
Woohoo!
Hello,
Okay.
Julie!
Hello!
Hello!
Hello, Chris. Hello, Emma.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm having a great day. A
Us
great
as well.
weekend,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
Had
are
a lovely
s-
night with you two last night.
Mhm.
Happy days. Had pancakes this morning. Now we're out on the farm. It's exciting.
That's
Beautiful.
beautiful. I am so excited for this conversation.
Mm.
I think you have so many interesting things to say.
I'm
So,
ready.
Yeah, for the beginning, as always, however you would like to introduce yourself, whatever you want to say about your passions, your visions, your
Who you are.
Who you are
what
in
you
general.
do.
Okay. Good open question. Okay, so my name is... I'll give honor to my full name. My name is Julie Ann Crocker.
Whoa.
There you go.
I didn't know that.
Alright, we already started with the first.
Starting
first
to learn
sentence.
more about me. I was named after Julie Andrews from The Sound of Music.
Okay, nice.
I live life passionately. I have a few passions that, like, I'm now 30, so over my life I've kind of done lots of different things, and I kind of realized last year that I really need to condense it down into something where I can actually put my time and energy in a concerted effort towards some things. So at the moment, I'm passionate about food rescue and keeping food out of landfill and redistributing it to people in the community and having it be like a food is free type mentality, and food being the connector of people. So I'm in the process of setting something like that up in Wanganui after doing it in Auckland and Waiheke and Wellington when I was a student. So food rescue. And the other thing I'm passionate about is dance and the therapeutic aspect of dance. I came to it because I love partner dancing. It's just like my most ultimate bliss state is dancing with a partner and to music. And having that kind of like magical dynamic between those three things, as well as everyone else on the dance floor. And I love to dance by myself and move my body to different music. And so at the moment, so I kind of channeled that love into being the facilitator of therapeutic movement. So that's something that I'm studying at the moment, and something that I hope to do for the rest of my life is to guide people through therapeutic movement practice. And then I'm also involved in the project that we're on the farm. We're on Piwakawaka Farm. And on this piece of land, we're hoping to create the socio-ecological learning environment. And so that is a project that has a beautiful, bold vision of supporting New Zealand and the people that come to this place, to this land, to support them into a thriving, resilient, unified future. And that's through learning about regenerative land practices and collaborative working styles and collective decision making and understanding power structures and understanding colonization and understanding our own mental well-being, and all of those things woven together is this big project. there's lots that I can talk about that, but those are the 3 things that I'm passionate about. I come from a family of a mum and dad and 2 sisters. I'm in the middle. It's a little bit interesting for me at the moment because all of my family lives overseas, even though we all moved to New Zealand from South Africa. And so I'm still here and everyone else is away. So it's like an interesting concept of like home is where the heart is, or home is where family is. But this is definitely my home, and I'll be here, live here. I don't imagine I'll live anywhere else, but my family doesn't live here. One other thing I must mention is that I love to cycle. It's just one of my other most ultimate passions. And my other favourite thing to do in the whole world is kissing.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good favorite thing.
Yeah. Probably shared with many other people, but it's just blissful.
I agree.
So that's a little random summary of who I am.
Oh, that's amazing. Like, we can really see you're so passionate and full of life. Like,
yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were thinking about what to ask you, because we know you from some context, and already from opening, you opened so many new thematics, new themes that we can touch upon. So
nice.
But our beginning with meeting you in Kai Conscious and Waiheke basically goes back to this.
Do you remember that first day when we met?
Yeah. I came in, you were cutting the strawberries, and you're like, "Hello, friend." I'm like, "Hello, are you looking for a job?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." So I came and then cut some strawberries with you. But
So
yeah, you were my first friend on the island.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
There was something about you that just like this, the energy that you brought into the sustainability center. I was just like, I want to give this person a hug straight away. I'm excited that this person is here. Who are you? Yes, come.
Amazing.
And then you came back the next week. I was like, yes, he's back.
Yeah.
And then I met you
Kept
later,
coming back,
and then
yeah.
you just kept coming. It's so nice.
Yeah, so basically we wanted to start with this exactly,
Nice,
like what was your role in Kai Conscious?
Mm.
Who are you as a facilitator of coming together basically through food?
Yeah, and what is this food rescue actually? What are you doing?
So, food rescue is collecting the food that would otherwise go into landfill because of there's a whole list of reasons why people can't sell it anymore, because it's somewhat damaged, or because the best before date is coming close or past,
Or something gets spilled on them.
something gets spilled just on the packet,
Yeah.
so it's still perfectly fine inside, but the
doesn't
staff
look
at
nice.
the supermarkets, and don't sort of have the time to like care for one package of something that has yogurt on it, so it just goes into the kind of waste pile.
when you get into it, it's so many stupid reasons.
So many reasons, and
Uh,
also some reasons that are like like genuine potential contamination and
course,
stuff.
yeah.
So there's all these reasons why food might need to go into the bin, but instead of it just going to landfill, where it just creates like havoc in the environment and just like methane gas goes exploding everywhere and fills up the landfill, we recover what is still edible and still suitable for humans, and we distribute it usually to people who are in some sort of financial need or food insecurity, but there's also this idea to try and take away the stigma from going to a food bank or going to to make the place where that rescued food is available, where it's actually like a vibrant community hub, which is kind of what like Kai Conscious was. It was a place where there were so many cool aspects to it, because you could go there and learn how to cook and be part of volunteer your time if you wanted to. You could even bring your food from home that was like at the back of your fridge and you didn't know how to use it, or so it was a place for learning, connecting with other people, doing something useful. And then there was this incredible huge vegetarian buffet, 2-course buffet that was made from mostly rescued food and volunteer love. So yeah, I was really excited to get that job on Waiheke because it was something I loved to do. It was part-time, it was just like well set up and was already in progress. When I was a student in Wellington, I was nannying for a woman who worked with the person who set up Kibosh, which was New Zealand's first food rescue organisation. So she told me about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really passionate about food waste. How can I be a volunteer? So then I started like a fortnightly shift with them and learnt about food rescue, and then moved to Auckland, and there wasn't any food rescue there, and I asked my friends in Wellington if they knew of what was going on in Auckland, and I managed to get a job with Kiwi Harvest right as they were beginning in Auckland. And so I worked there for 2 years, like starting from the beginning of a business and business charity, and growing it to like I was part of growing it to a really substantial size, where we like went through hiring staff, where we went through like, getting like numerous vans, where we went through like changing our HQ, where we moved into having like actual pantry space and a chilled freezer, chilled container, and I would like drive the forklift, and I just did I had such an amazing experience of like setting up a really big food rescue organisation. So that happened in Auckland, and then moving to Waiheke, it was just so easy and relaxed. It was just one day a week, one supermarket. Like, it was so nice to have the combination of a meal as well, because all the other food rescues are kind of just dealt with the food sorting side of things, collecting and sorting and delivering, whereas this was like I did the whole thing. It was just the perfect place to like collect, bring it to the centre, everyone was there ready to go, and then I'd see it all the way through to like the community actually coming together, smiles on their faces, happy days.
Everything free.
Everything free.
It's just volunteer, right?
Yeah. It's interesting though that there was like a koha box, and it's still like a curious thing to me about how to make those sorts of operations a little bit more like a functioning social enterprise, you know, where just a little bit of money could be made to maybe support the wages of, say for me, that I was like collecting the food, so that we don't have to keep applying for grants and things. So like that's one of the major interests of setting up the Wanganui Kai Hub, is how we can actually make it like a sustainable social enterprise. So what, even though food is free and we're trying to like offer wide access to the resource that we kind of get for free, but we still have to pay someone to go pick it up, we still have to pay for the petrol, so like how to make it a social enterprise.
So who actually pays for it now?
You have to apply for grants usually.
So it's like a government thing?
Yeah, government thing, but the grant writing takes quite a long time, and you have to, like, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, and it's a little bit like tender and scary to base your operations on whether you might get grant money or not. So yeah, so that's curious. Something that I'm learning is like how to run a social enterprise.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know much about it, so cool.
I'm actually curious about, do you maybe know how much food gets thrown away every year? For example, here in New Zealand?
No, I don't. But I know, like, worldwide, like, it's the craziest statistics. Like, in the Western world, 1/3 of the food that is grown, and 1/3 of the food that we make with all the resources that requires making food gets thrown away or ends up in landfill. Like, of course, like we said before, there's so many different reasons, but it's just so messed up.
Yeah, because like what you see in reality is just boxes and boxes and truckloads of food get thrown away every day. Like that's the practice. That's the normal practice. Every supermarket has bins full of food.
Bins full of food.
Very nice food.
And that's
usually.
that's like at the supermarket level, and then there's like the commercial food business level, where like a business like that is making bulk food, like even before it gets to the supermarket, they have to send a whole truckload every week to the dump. Like there's just waste at all.
Yeah, even when you pick apples, you know, you never pick them from the floor.
Yeah,
it starts at the beginning.
Totally,
like, so much
totally.
food we grow is just them
There's
to
some
get them.
there's some cool things in the UK. The UK has been doing a lot of food rescue stuff for a long time, and they have what's called gleaning, which is going to a lot of orchards and things and picking a lot of the fruit that didn't make the grade or is on the floor or so that's cool.
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories about any sort of food, like for example tomatoes that doesn't look perfectly round and nobody wants to buy them, so the farmers just have to throw them away.
It was cool in Europe, the ugly food movement and stuff. Were you
No.
aware of all those things? So because it was becoming aware that people weren't buying things because the carrots weren't perfectly straight, or not even that people weren't buying them, but like that the
Supermarket
suppliers
wouldn't-
wouldn't, that they
of course.
wouldn't put them on for sale. So then there was this movement about the ugly food movement, and so they would have these bins of like the perfect one on one side for a certain price, and then the deformed carrots on the other side with a different price.
Beautiful.
And people,
But
were,
that's a great idea.
yeah, so good, huh?
Like I would love to buy
Yeah, the ugly fruit movement.
Yeah, I mean,
Ugly food movement, so good.
nice.
Yeah.
We wanted to hear from you actually, like kind of course we can talk about this for the whole podcast, but basically like if we go somewhere where this is not yet set up or somebody decides to do it, like what are the main things, what are your worries, or like where do you even start, like how do you go about it? Because I know in New Zealand, for example, they have you explained to me that there's a law that basically everyone can sign these contracts that we are aware that we can get sick from it or something like that, like we're taking responsibility away from us because we're just providers of this free food. So just like on this legal standpoint, but of course there's so much more, like okay, think of a truck, all right, where do we get a truck, like simple little things, but I guess there are like a billion of them.
Yeah. Shall I try and just say what comes to mind first?
Yeah, like
for
what
sure.
are the biggest things, or just like what was for you, what did you spend the most time, like writing the grant and then doing what?
So it's the project that we're doing now is like we have a few weeks to do a feasibility study, which is really cool because all the other projects I've done is just like, okay, let's go, just piecing it together piece by piece as we're doing it, and now we have 10 weeks to figure out a plan, and we get paid to figure out the plan, which is great. So you need things like ideally a space where you can bring the food. Otherwise you can do the model of like collecting the food and delivering it, but it's much nicer to actually have a place where you can bring the food that has power, shelter, has a space where the truck can be
Preferably accessible easily in the center.
accessible, fridges and freezers there ideally, some like bench tops to sort the food. Then you need to have the agreements with the food donors. So that's where you're talking about in New Zealand there's a Food Act, and in the Food Act is the Good Samaritan Act, and that basically, like you say, the liability goes down the chain. So the person giving the food, the person receiving the food takes on the liability from the person giving the food, and both parties understand that with giving the food, the donor believes the food is safe to consume at that moment, and then the liability goes with the person receiving the food. And if they're going to pass it on again, then they also pass on the liability. So that's why people can feel safe. But there's also a law about not on-selling it. I think that's also part of the law, which is fair enough. But then, so that's where like the social enterprise model is really interesting, because it's like how are we gonna, without just like constantly applying for grants, how are we gonna make it into a thing where we can maybe modify a little bit and ask for a small donation, or we've got to figure it out. But you need agreements with the food donors and taking them through how you want to receive the food and what kind of food you want to receive. So like there's a difference between actually like compostable waste and edible food, and you need to kind of educate the food donors on that.
And they have to be really flexible with making new practices or just
Totally.
like decisions of wait, maybe this one goes to the landfill, this one is okay, and
Yeah. So it's quite you have to really like get the people on side. And then you have to figure out the major thing, because there's no shortage of food out there. Like there's just so much. You have to really have a plan of where the food's going to go and how it's going to get distributed. And so like knowing about different food, about different like charities that like have a use for food, because there might be like food banks or like women's refuges where there's a house and a fridge and you can deliver the food and you know it's going to be safe. Whereas there might be another organization like a church that might be well-meaning, but they don't have a fridge, or they have a really small fridge. So then if you deliver them heaps of meat or milk or whatever, they might not have like a plan of exactly how they're gonna, and then it becomes wasted food, and then
you just edit
yeah,
work.
yeah. So knowing where your food's going to go and having like trust in the fact that it's going to be looked after well and go to the right people. And then food safety certificate stuff, and then a van that can ideally a refrigerated van, and even better still an electric refrigerated van.
We want to be sustainable.
Dreaming. but that they do exist if you can get the money for them. And then a volunteer army, because they really like come in handy with offering food sorting hours. Like it can just be 2 hours a week or 2 hours a fortnight, but like that's how a lot of food rescues run, is just by volunteer power, and then having like coordinators that manage the relationships with everyone and maybe manage the space and is there constantly to make sure that the food's going to the right places and not getting wasted and da da da. And then you also need to make sure that you have a compost bin or a compost partner, because sometimes the food just needs to go back to the earth. That's what I can think of so far.
Yeah.
Wow, you told us so much. Like, that's a great start if somebody wants to get into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there's some now, because there's been food rescue for like the last 10 years or so in New Zealand, and there's now I think 40 plus food rescue organizations across the country, as well as like national networks where big bulk amounts of food go to them and then they redistribute it to the food rescue charities. So there's now lots of people are like well practiced of how to do it and can support one another.
Yeah, when you see it working in practice, it gives you this idea it's possible and motivation.
And learn from their mistakes.
Exactly.
And
I've never seen this before I came here to New Zealand. So for me it's so inspirational to see this, to see it's possible. So it's amazing that you tell us how it works and what you can do, so we get the idea how to start this in a place where this was never done before.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. And it's all over the world, so definitely check out wherever you are in the world, your like local food rescue organization.
Yeah, we do need this. As you mentioned, we are on this beautiful farm right now, on your newest project.
The latest project.
The latest project, yeah. I was completely blown away when you showed us around and you told us what you're doing. Actually, I'm holding in my hand the biggest apple I have ever seen. I cannot even describe how big it is. It's like you need 3 hands to even carry it.
I've seen smaller pumpkins.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a pumpkin size. We're gonna put a picture on Discord if you want to check it out. So, can you please present us this beautiful project that you're doing right now?
Also, I'm interested in connection to what we talked about, how volunteer-based this operation is. Like, again, you're applying for grants and stuff, but how does it work?
Well, you mean this farm? If it's volunteer-based? Yeah.
Well, yes. We joke in the organization that we've like really cracked free energy. Like we've cracked the free energy market, because for 4 years there's been 7 of us that have worked in our spare time and volunteering towards creating this project. So we still are unpaid to this day. So it's been a lot of love hours. So we have a charitable trust that holds the vision of creating a unified and resilient and thriving future for New Zealand. And the way that we want to inspire people to thrive is through reconnecting to the land and through learning regenerative practices like growing healthy food, like regenerating the soil, restoring waterways and the banks of waterways, restoring native forests and pest control and weed control so that native species can thrive. And in doing all of that, in working with the land and working in groups, so to teach people all of that, we're going to be holding learning experiences. And there's been a lot of research that's gone into how our learning experiences are going to go. And they're going to be holistic. So there's 3 levels of our learning model. One is place-based, so really connecting deeply to the area that you're in and not only the natural features but the social context and the historical context of this place. Really getting to know like what is special about this place and connecting to that, because once there's lots of these beautiful thoughts and beautiful writing about once you connect deeply to a place, you really care about the future of that place and how it rolls. So place-based learning, relational learning, and getting a real like focus on healthy, positive interrelationships and how you communicate with people and how you work together with people, and having a really like solid and strong culture of your culture can be whatever it is, but just as long as you're sort of clear and understand that that's the culture that exists between people, and people are so complicated and like diverse and interesting and complex and wild, and a focus of our learning model will be about how to work together in healthy ways. And then the next one in is the personal and embodied. So taking like a holistic understanding of people and our senses and our bodies and the memory that we hold, and the fact that we're individuals as part of the collective. So we have our own calling, and we have our own gifts, and we have our own purpose, and like getting clearer about those things can support you to understand how you relate to others and how you relate to place. So that's our learning model. And so all of those things that I mentioned before about like growing food and regenerating soil and reforesting waterways, all of those will be teaching people through holistic learning experiences. So that's the vision of the trust, and we also hope to make those learning experiences as accessible as possible, so either free or at a really low cost, and hoping to sort of get money from corporates or council or government or whatever to do like professional development courses through us. So that's where the like higher income is going to come from, and then that allows for more accessible education for other groups. And so that's the trust, is the education, environmental education, well-being piece, supporting people's well-being through learning and connecting back to the land. And then within the trust, there'll be some businesses. So Piwaka Farm, which is the farm that we're on, is one of the businesses. So we have the apples and the apple juice and the food that we're growing. And then we also have the nursery that we're starting, and then ecological services, so like doing pest control and weed control, not only on our land but for lots of land around the region. And we have those skills and we have that experience, so we can offer that as a service. So yeah, there's businesses involved as part of the trust. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds so perfect. Like, I am actually so curious. How did you came up with the idea? How did this begin?
So, two of my dear friends and colleagues who are part of the group went tramping one time together and got lost in the woods, got lost in the forest somewhere. And as part of that trip, which I wasn't on, they they spoke about this vision, because one was a farmer and a permaculture teacher, and the other is a clinical psychologist and a mindfulness teacher. And there's just so much overlap in the connection to the inner ecosystem and the outer ecosystem, and the patterns that exist between the two are just so conducive to understanding ourselves more, and to understanding like the whole picture, and to understanding like how life works in like a systematic, organic way, and just understanding like the patterns that exist in us because we're nature, and how we interact with nature. Like, I mean, there's just example after example after example that we can learn from nature that can like enhance our lives, because we understand that we're nested holes of a bigger system, you know. And there's just so much understanding and learning that you can do in the crossover between our minds and our psyches and our hearts and the land. Yeah, so that's how the project came about, and then we slowly grew over time with other people coming on board. So we each kind of like have our own little area of interest and our own skills and gifts that we offer. The next two people that came on, one was a native forester and a ecological expert, and the other is my friend who created our learning model. And so she has a really huge passion for education, and part of how this came about as well is because of our experiences in the education system, and not being right, and not being supportive, and not being interesting, and being really standardized as opposed to diverse and interesting and encouraging. You know, it was just, you know, that's part of the inspiration, was like, oh, we need something else available for people to have thriving learning experiences where they're inspired and excited, and it's like ideally kind of meets their individual talents, you know, and like brings them out and supports them in that, as opposed to just like this kind of standardization and draining creativity through like, you know. And it's not fun for the teachers, it's not fun for the kids, it's not fun, you know. So that was a major drive for us wanting to create learning experiences that are like life-giving and powerful and connecting, you know. It's like, we're just like this, surely it can be done so much better, come on.
No, I find it the most incredible in this whole story that actually, like, the seven of you, like, you came up with the idea, you came together, and then you were doing this voluntarily for free for 4 years. Nobody backed up. You were all doing it together. You all put so much energy in it, and now you're buying the land. Like, all of you, like, so prepared to work on this project. Like, wow, that's a unique thing to find so many people working on one thing and not backing up.
It's rare. It's super unique. There's a few different things that make it so beautiful and so unique. We're all really close friends, and have known each other for like a number of years before coming together. But like we've had many shared experiences. Like we're all part of the Burner community, and so we've been to you know, Kiwi Burner has been a part of our lives, and like that's been a really like awesome way to kind of also crack open our minds and crack open our experiences, and like it's a playground for what you can create and what it is that you want to see. So do it, you know. It's a duocracy, and it's like a, you know, that was just it's just been a really fun place to kind of like play with ideas and try things out. So in the most recent Kiwi Burn, we ran a few workshops of connecting people to that place, the site where Kiwi Burn is, and then another one was like power dynamic games, and people just got so much out of it, and so like it's spaces like that where we can work together and like prototype some learning experiences. But I've never ever been a part of or heard of other projects. There probably are, but like where people are so committed to the vision. It's so crazy, and we have it. It supports us that we're all really close friends, because there's already a level of trust and already a level of deep respect and love and care. But it's also like incredibly, it can be really challenging that we work with our close friends, you know, and it's astounding to me that we are still remain really close friends. And I think it's definitely we've definitely become closer through our learning together and our working together. And like, even though our friendship is very distinct to what it might have been like if we hadn't been involved in a project like this, it's still a beautiful friendship that exists between all of us, really close, really trusting, really, really affirmative and supportive of one another. And it's quite special that we're still working on it 4 years later. And yeah,
it's like all your souls came down to this earth with this mission, and you find each other like to do it together. Like, wow,
and I feel so supported to be, and I think we all do. Like the vision's too big for any of us to take on or carry out ourselves, and to have this like really diverse group of very experienced and talented and really intelligent, loving, caring group of people. And we've us 7, you know, and a few others that are like really close to our group as well, as partners and friends and things, have got it to this point, and we're like very much excited now to be able to open up and invite more people in, and with more and different people, it creates diversity, and it creates like a new edge where we have to, like, you know, change our very intimate friend ways and work more like a living organization. So that's exciting now too. Yeah.
Wow, I'm so proud of you, and like, I'm so inspired by you as well. Like, wow, guys, amazing.
Yeah, it used to be just stories you were telling me, and now to see it in person, it really exists, and it's like beyond anything I could have imagined.
So cool.
Wow, really
so cool.
Good job.
Yeah, so exciting. Yeah, we just in the last, like, the things that we've been able to achieve is wild. Like, raising this amount of money to be able to buy land outright without going into debt. We have been supported by some really, like, some philanthropists that are just super generous and like happen to be aligned and happen to be on like a friendship level with us, and just happen to also be philanthropists. We just got incredibly lucky, and one of the members of the team worked for this foundation that has given us a lot of financial support. So like through relationships and through reciprocal affirming relationships is how we've managed to raise this much money, as well as support from friends and family, got us to this point to be able to buy the land outright. And now it's just like that's a huge feat to get to that point where we can actually now make the thing happen. So like in a way it's kind of like a beginning, even though it's
It's
I mean, now it's yours. Now we can do whatever. I mean,
now I can make it come to life.
woohoo.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice for someone who wants to start something similar to this, like who wants to start kind of like a learning community place connected to the land?
Is it just passion or?
I mean, it must be, because when I hear your story and all of you guys doing this together, like there is some spirit guiding you, like with the money and with everything. I cannot imagine this not being like in the holy hands. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. I think there's something really special in the team and the dynamics and the people that we have in our team. So like finding people that you really gel with and work well with and have a shared vision and have a shared passion for this work and have a shared commitment. Those are all really important. I think being like as clear as you can over time, or committed to like continuing on the journey of clarity and understanding what it is that you want to achieve, and then just getting further, like moving from, it's a permaculture principle which I reference a lot, but moving from patterns into details. So like understanding the patterns of what it is you want to create, and just working further and further and further towards the details of how you want it to go, and holding the big picture, being adaptable to that, as well as getting clearer and down to actual action points. And like, if we want this to be true or this to come to fruition, then what are the steps that we need to actually action it? And then you just start from there slowly and surely. We're like so lucky. There's been a lot of research that's gone into our organizational model, and how to create an organization that there's this idea from Daniel Christian Welsh, I think his name is, where he says that in order to create something that is life-giving, the thing has to be modeled off life or living. So if you want to be creating thriving life, then how it is that you go about that needs to be thriving. Needs to, you can't just make a stale old organization that works in the same old boring stuck ways like we have been.
I love that.
If you want to create something that is full of life and life-giving to the world and to people.
Something to the point of you cannot change the system
using the same
with working in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I love that.
So a lot of research has gone into how our organization functions. So like, I think, advice for people wanting to start something similar is there's so many different things to take into consideration, like I was talking about in place, understanding like the needs of that place, and understanding what's already been before you, and understanding the people of the indigenous people of that place, if there are some, and the most malnourished people in that place, and not just with malnourished with food, but malnourished with connection and purpose and all of those things. Understanding like what the needs are of those people in place. And then getting really clear on your vision and understanding what that is and why. Why is it that vision? Why do you want to bring that into the world? And then getting a team together, and then understanding how you're going to work together as a team, because I think that's one of the things that makes these sorts of projects fall over time and time again, is not having the right structures in place that support the issues that come up with interpersonal working relationships. And you got to think about that from the beginning, of like, how are you going to resolve conflict? How are you going to make decisions? Like without like a clear decision making structure, then like it just gets almost immediately so out of hand, and just like so confusing and disempowering. And if you can agree on those sorts of things that are like really fundamental to the success of a project like this. So there's some things to get really clear about, and then there's other things to just be like adaptable and also listening and responsive to what that place actually needs.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
That's maybe a bit vague, but
but
it's a big project.
You hit on the main point, that without a team that's really working in unison and like can resolve its own stuff, without that you cannot have a thriving project. So first you start with people who are working, and then the company or whatever will prosper. But that goes for anything.
There's so much to it. We've learnt so much through
I can imagine,
through the creating of this organization, and like through troubleshooting or through reaching things that were.
I love that you're so young, and like, wow, what that means, like you started with this project with 26 years, like that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to shout outs to the team that I work with. Like, I'm one part of a brilliant team. They're amazing, amazing friends and workmates. some of the most brilliant people I know. So that's pretty
Mm.
lucky to be working with them.
Well,
They inspire me every day.
Wow. Incredible, really.
Yes.
You inspire me. Okay. Okay, so you said you're making like a permaculture garden. So can you tell us what is actually permaculture?
It's been a while since I've studied permaculture, and I'm like excited to get back into the into the thinking of it and the practicing of it. I used to have a definition that I memorized, but I don't know it now. I would say that permaculture is a set of principles that are designed to support nature to do its thing and to be its best self. So it's humans' way of interacting with nature that supports it to produce to a really high level for itself, and or like effectively, which doesn't necessarily mean like efficiently, because nature just works at its perfect pace. But with some human intervention, we can support nature to flourish, supporting itself as well as humans. So because we're part of the natural ecosystem of life, like we can support nature to support us as well. And so it's like a holistic system of people care and land care and abundance.
Yeah, and I also heard that one of the main principles is that everything stays in the system. So whatever you put in and put out, it's always coming back. It's like
yeah, and like
cycling.
it's so there's like different kind of threads, I think, of permaculture, where there's like the really more traditional idea of permaculture, which is like the land-based stuff. And then there's the social permaculture side of things, and it's like systems thinking. So there's the kind of like more tangible, like gardening practices or soil practices or waste management or like animal rearing stuff, which is all kind of like the really hands-on land-based stuff. And then there's social permaculture principles, which is still applying the whole set of permaculture principles, but you could apply it to your relationship, or you could apply it to your organization, or to teaching or whatever, where it just like where you're supporting people to understand holistic systems thinking, which is part of permaculture, and designing, like putting thought into design of solving problems.
Ooh,
with like really
nicely
good,
put,
with really good design, then you can solve problems in a much more elegant, beautiful way.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because I believe that the world that we are on is gonna break in a like beautiful fashion. Everything's gonna explode because it's so unsustainably set that it has to break at some point.
I like how you say it's gonna break in a beautiful way.
yeah, it's gonna self-destroy, and it's gonna make a lot of space for what people are gonna have to bring, like new practices. And I see permaculture as the only way we're gonna continue thriving, but just living, producing food and everything. So exactly like you said, if we start with this thought of changing the system, then we're gonna be maybe a bit better prepared when this time comes. But also we can start now. We don't have to wait for everything to break.
And it's not so far away, honestly. Like it.
And I think also like it must be remembered that like permaculture is a theory of the last 30 years or something. That's just like a phrase that's been coined for like a set of principles. But looking into indigenous cultures, they've been caring for the land and understanding the interconnection of the systems of the world for millennia, like that's how they've lived and understood the world, is through a lot of what permaculture has just kind of like put into Western understandable ways of knowing. So there's like the indigenous ways of knowing, where they've just been doing these practices for many years and passing them down generations, and then there's the Western regenerative practice way of knowing. So like,
It's like with many things, like with medicine, that we're now having
totally.
all these alternative medicines that are actually old indigenous knowing, just backed in a new way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Like we're recycling everything slowly.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
the
yeah.
knowledge.
It's like, it's kind of come. It's a crazy thing that's happened in the last, I don't know,
100 years?
since the Industrial Revolution or so, you know, which is only what our maybe our grandparents' generation or so, or maybe one behind that. But like, just the fact that we've done this crazy like capitalist mad cycle of sort of like, I guess patriarchy's been going on for a lot longer, but like some really destructive bullshit that's happened for these generations, and then we're just kind of feels like we're kind of cycling around to get to an understanding of like, ooh shit, backtrack. How do we reclaim some of that knowledge that that is almost out of our grips, being lost, you know, and just kind of get back to that. But it's, I don't know, it's interesting. It's maybe this is the thinking of people in our way of thinking, or in our circles, or you know, but is it the way of the mainstream, and how far is it to get to that point of, I don't know, mainstream being more?
I think it's becoming more mainstream every day because it's so important. Like, this makes me think about the oil problem as well, and the plastic problem we have in this world, and this is exactly what you were talking about before, that at some point the world is gonna explode, kind of, so we're gonna be without oil, without all the stuff we're using right now, and then we'll have to think about something new, all the things that we don't want to think about right now, because they will cost money, they will cost time, they will cost energy. But I'm so glad to live right now when this is gonna happen in my lifetime, you know.
Totally.
We are gonna be the one that's gonna create a new future. We're gonna be the one that's gonna find new solutions for everything. So I'm so happy seeing you doing this already now. Like,
every Piwaka Waka farm is gonna contribute to a new world, you know.
Totally.
It's like planting new seeds.
Yeah, and it's definitely the vision is like, when we're at this point now, before everything goes completely bust and we don't know what that's going to look like, but to support people to learn some skills that are like really essential for
So beautiful,
the future, the uncertain future, you know, like, how do we work together? How do we grow our own food? How do we deal with our own waste? All of those things. Yeah. Exciting times.
Oh my god, I'm so proud of you. I cannot believe what you're doing.
I'm excited for when you come back in a little while, when we have
Me
buildings
too.
and when we have learning experiences.
Oh, look.
Yeah, and that's also like, it's such an exciting, fun place to be dreaming in, because there's, like I was talking about education and like the staleness of that, like, we want to gamify our learning experiences and learn, like, how about we learn through games, or like, how about we learn through song, or how about we learn through storytelling rather than like a PowerPoint and a whiteboard, and you know, like, how about we learn by sitting in the hills silently for a day, or like just being open to different ways of learning and supporting people in those different ways of learning, because you know the current model is not working. So
Well,
I believe in discovery even more than learning. It's you get this first, of course you learn a little bit, just something exists, but how you really apply it and acquire it is through doing it, and so that's how you basically learn.
Experiential, transformative
Exactly, yeah.
learning.
it's
yeah.
like this. You have to learn everything by yourself, you know. You can hear something many times, and then one day you're gonna do it, and you're gonna be like, this is what everyone were talking about.
Lands.
Yeah.
And it's actually like we have to try to know. Like, this is how we have to learn.
And I believe that now this society, like how it's set up, is okay. We have all the knowledge, we know everything.
Yeah.
You just have to memorize it, and voila. It's like where did we forget that it's not about like knowing, like if you don't know how to do it.
To
Like
actually
this
do it.
mentality.
Yeah.
Nobody even talks about synthesis of different knowledge or different information that we get, because for me, this is the main point, the main thing where you can even discover and find something new, like by applying different things together and making a new mix.
Totally.
Yeah, maybe.
And where things meet, you know, like that edge is such
a beautiful point.
Yeah, maybe like atoms of little knowledges, and then when you connect them, you get stuff. You know, like all the molecules of life. It's just little parts connected, and in the connection lies the knowledge, the structure.
And
wow,
and also
so
the like.
I'm so proud of this description.
Yeah, I think for one of our kind of vision statements is weaving ways of knowing. So like the Western way, which we all in the group come from, and a lot of people descend from this Western European or Western/European modes of thinking, and weaving in indigenous ways of knowing as well, and the meeting of those, and then discovering life's interconnections and understanding the like interplay and the relational aspects of things and how they connect, and like in that middle ground is like the thing that is so interesting and fascinating, and then nourishing a shared future. Those are our vision statements. It's nice to hear you guys talk about it.
Nice to hear you.
It's so funny actually, because how I see knowledge of the world is we know everything. Like you can find whatever, all the opposite opinions and knowledges, like the full spectrum has been covered. Of course we know we discover new things, but a lot of things, mainly all of the things we know already. And then it's just like you choose which one works for you, and then when you weave you see this is the pattern that it's making, so it's like you're saying, it's more like which one are we gonna choose, which one are we gonna follow in practice, especially because you have to choose. You go left or you go right. You have to do something, and then
you
have
might
a decision.
you might choose and then try it for a while and figure out that it's actually a little bit different in practice,
But I think that's beautiful if you figure it out for yourself, because in this society you can see a lot of pressure, like they tell us what to choose, what to do, and you don't have this place for discovery, for exploring what actually works for you, what path to choose. So I find it beautiful that we're even talking about this, just trying and choosing your own way.
Totally.
So we got to know your projects, the big things that we wanted to know more about. But also, for me, you're a really interesting person from everything that you told me and from everything that I know of you. So maybe we touch about more like just what do you do and how do you work, starting with the dance therapy, dancing in general. Like I'm interested what it represents for you. What do you find in it? Why this? Because you said that you had to distill down to one specific thing, and how did it come to dance therapy?
Nice. I think I have two sisters, so maybe that's been always a part of my life, is like dancing together, and I guess being girls and having time together and music being on and us like creating dances and things. I think it's what a lot of young girls do. So I've been dancing all my life, mostly partner dancing all my life. And
standard Latino American, or
like a mixture. I started with ballroom when I first moved to New Zealand. We did some dances in South Africa, but then moved to New Zealand and started ballroom, which was like waltz and quick step and the rumba and all sorts of funny things, and the cha-cha and stuff. But that was when I was like 10 years old, and then by 13 it used to be on Friday nights. By 13 I was like, no, this isn't cool. This isn't cool anymore. So I stopped doing that. But then in high school I went to do this dance called Sarok, which is like a mixture between a jive and swing sort of thing. And we had a group of us that would go there all the time, and it was just so... Dance, I find, just like so presence-thing. It just brings you into the moment, and there's nothing else to do but enjoy the motion and the music and the like being with the other person. And because a lot of the partner dances that I've done are all improvised. Like there's a set of steps, and you kind of know maybe what the move is as someone's leading you into it. But like it's improvised in the moment, with the leader deciding what's going to happen. So I think that is just so appealing to me, is that it's like in the moment, exciting, expressive, connecting, and it's just, I guess it's just, I've just always loved. Adore music, and then to be able to move my body in a way that like feels satisfying, to move it like in flow with the music it's just so deeply satisfying. And I think because I'm human and dancing is something that has been done by cultures and generations since forever, and like that is really a very ritualistic experience, and is very, it's like an honoured traditional practice of collective unity and marking a special occasion and a special moment, and supporting people to transition from like maybe a time in an age or a time in their life, or signifying a death or a new birth, or like harvest times or special moons, all these things. It's just like there's so much to it, and historically and culturally. So I think that's also just a part of it, is that I'm connected to dance because it's like it's just so fundamental to being a human and being in community, is moving together. And I think I'm really drawn to dance therapy, even though it's really different to the bliss that I find in partner dancing. Like it's a completely different thing. Like me being led by someone and finding bliss in like, some of my favorite dances are Argentine tango and blues dancing, and a Brazilian folk dance called forró, and bachata, and there's a few others. So those I get completely lost in, and then being the facilitator of therapeutic movement is a completely different thing. So I like it's a little bit mismatched, still in the same general arena of dance, but like it's a totally different thing. But I've been drawn to dance therapy as just because I feel like dancing is as a part of my gift to the world, and a passion. I've just been drawn to studying the psychological benefits of moving our bodies and releasing energy and releasing tension, and providing people with the connective aspect of movement and expression. And like I've been reading quite a lot about Carl Jung and his ideas about the subconscious and collective subconscious, and just like understanding that movement can support people to express things that are not verbally expressible, and can connect oneself to things that are going on in the subconscious that you wouldn't be able to articulate or necessarily like draw out, and movement is such a pathway to that, such a pathway to self-discovery. And not to mention, it's just like the funnest, it's the funnest and quickest way to do that, is to access more of the self that you don't really know about just by sitting there writing or consciously thinking about it. It's like you get onto an open dance floor, there's music on, you close your eyes, you move your body, things come up that you just had no idea even were there, or that fully support you to understand something about yourself. And then you have a dance with someone else, and you're brought into presence, and you're connecting, and your bodies are connecting, and there's nothing else that matters apart from that moment where you're moving together, and that can teach you something. And so I'm really drawn to facilitating people into those spaces and into those moments. And at the moment I'm doing an internship, so I'm still learning. This last year was kind of more theoretical study-ish, and I was also doing some placement hours. But this year we have to get it's mostly about our placement hours. Is the second year of my qualification, and my one internship is working at an old age home in the care centre. So not the people that are living independently, but the people that are in a care centre and looked after 24/7. And in their kind of activity room, I go in there once a week, and for an hour I support them to move their bodies, so supporting their physical well-being. I offer them what I'm trying to create, I'm still learning how to do it, but what I'm trying to create is like healthy reminiscing, or like enjoyable safe space for them to reminisce about their lives, and like offer them a bit of a transcendence out of that environment and out of that space that they're in every day and constantly confronted with their age and their kind of bodily and mental decay, I guess. It's kind of a harsh way of putting it, but that's what part of what's happening. And to connect to one another, because it's so fun being there and like talking about a theme and hearing them speak about different things, and someone else is like, oh really, you grew up there, or oh you did that as a job, or oh you have 3 daughters I didn't know, and so like supporting their creativity, their connectivity, offering them a chance to express creatively however they want, and then just having the element of music is just so beautiful.
Extra.
Yeah, it's so nice.
I want to actually know just like quick, simple stuff, but basically, what do you do in your life? So, what are you conscious about? Are you conscious about, of course, recycling, reusing, refusing, doing stuff with your own hands, not buying, not supporting businesses you don't really agree with, stuff like that? So, what are your kind of practices you are conscious about in your life?
Great question. I love to cycle wherever I can, but I've definitely been. Sometimes I can drive my car, like out of laziness and out of ease and convenience. So I'm like still totally trapped in the kind of convenience aspect of many aspects of my life. So I love cycling, and so I cycle when I have the time and it works for me, which is not always. I have thought about and tried to like start my own veggie garden for many years, but I've decided and come to the realization that like the way that I live my life doesn't allow for the time that it takes to grow a vegetable garden, and so therefore like I'm going to stop making myself feel bad about it. And because I'm involved in this amazing project, and I'm just lucky enough to like have teamed up with people that love to grow food and are really good at growing food. And so I'm like, I think, if you can't like do it yourself, find ways that you can like be parallel to that, so yeah, I've like along with I work with people that grow really amazing food, so yeah. And then I still buy a bunch of stuff from the supermarket. I do a lot of personal reflection through diary writing. So there's like, I guess, the practical side of things, and then there's also the more personal well-being side of stuff. So I diary write. I've just started writing a dream diary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm curious about it. Like I've been talking about the Jungian.
Inspired by Jung.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I like to go for walks in the morning and spend some time. I've been getting way better at spending time alone, and offering myself. I learnt this on a wonderful, amazing dance retreat that I used to go to last year in Coromandel.
Oh, nice.
When we were there, we kind of learnt, or in our day was soul time, and we had half an hour in the morning before we started, after breakfast, of soul time. And that wasn't for being on our cell phone, or wasn't for, it was just choosing something that was going to feed our soul. And so often I've been so busy that I haven't been able to do that sort of thing. So I'm getting much better at working out how I can offer myself soul time.
That is such a genius idea,
Mm.
to have your soul time.
Soul
Just for
time,
you.
just for you. Like, just carve out a little moment of every day
Yeah.
where you can feed your soul.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice for anyone in this world.
Yeah,
like just to have some
totally.
soul time.
Totally. Whether it's meditating or yoga, and lots of people have that practice, which is great, but like being really explicit about it and conscious about it and committed to yourself like you might be to others.
Mm.
And how do you commit that time to yourself? So learning about that.
You have to force yourself.
that's
comes.
already so much
interesting.
things.
I think there's still so much that I would like to work on in terms of my like personal way that I express my like anarchism, or like I think we're involved in a project that does a lot of that, but I think I'm still learning how to like really move away from the convenience model myself in my own life. So I don't want that to kind of sound hypocritical, because we are with this project we're looking at kind of systems level change. So again, like the patterns, what are the patterns that aren't working, and the from that level, how can we change that with difference in education and connecting people to land and things, and then the patterns of the practical things in my life. Like that still feels like a little bit work in progress, because I think we're still fully, or like it's so easy to be fully enraptured and caught up in the stuckness of life, and like having the supermarket be the easiest, most convenient place to go and get food that's semi-affordable, and there's not like the supportive systems in place yet for us to be able to buy fully local and organic and affordable, so there's still, I still definitely feel trapped in a lot of ways in the convenience
Slowly.
model.
Yeah, every farm.
But you are breaking free. Look, you are
Yeah,
doing
breaking
something.
free and
Yeah.
totally.
That people can also break free.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a funny random array of things that came to mind with that question.
Cool.
For me also it's very interesting to hear. Again, go as deep as you want. What's your view on love? How do you invite love in your life? How do you express it? What's your language, but also how do you cherish, nourish love in your life?
It's a great question. I feel incredibly lucky to have a life that is full of love. So I don't at the moment have any intimate love or partnership, and I think it's starving oneself of the fuller understanding of love to see love as being just the intimate relationship, partnership sort of thing. So as much as I'm excited for the moment when intimacy and partnership version of love comes back into my life, I feel just love in every direction. And I see love as being, I dedicated my ritual of that dance retreat, I dedicated that to love and to courage. And I really see love as being the energy that spurs on life force. It's the thing that continues, that keeps all of life going. You know, it's the thread that holds everything together, and I totally believe in that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really a really, really, really powerful, above all, force. So I am working more and more and more on my self-love and figuring out what that actually means to me and what that looks like to me. So when you met me on Waiheke, I was incredibly busy all the time. And part of me moving here was to one of my intentions was to love myself inwardly as much as I love the world outwardly. And I love the world outwardly to a huge extent. And so the question I've been asking myself is like, what about inward, and how is it that I can offer myself that same amount of love? Because I am the outer world, you know, as well as being my individual self, I am. So why is that love not reciprocated as well, you know? I think it's a thing that like lots of people struggle with or deal with or come into, you know, have a different relationship to, is like how you love yourself and how it is that you show yourself that love and stuff. So, you know, I'm very much on the journey of figuring out my self-love, and I think it looks like doing a much more comfortable amount, not kind of succumbing to that writer that I was talking to you about, John O'Donoghue. In his podcast, he talks about the violence of overworking. And it's that, when I heard that, it was so powerful to me. I was like, oh, it is actually like a violation of our lives to work that much or to be caught up in that much busyness. So, yeah, that's part of my self-love journey, is looking at looking at my full plate and figuring out what is actually nourishing my soul, and what do I want to keep eating, and what can I take off the plate. So, yeah, that is part of my love regime routine. I also love to keep in contact with many people that I find dear to me, and so I'm often on the phone and using communication means to connect with people, and that's a really major way that I receive love and like to offer love, is through calls and contacting and maintaining my relationships to a point that are really healthy, and those are friendship relationships. So yeah.
Well, you answered beautifully.
Yeah, I think the self-love piece is really important, and I'm currently I've just broken up with someone that I love dearly, but it just wasn't quite the right thing for me in terms of wanting to find a partner where I can, with whom I can start a family, and that can kind of meet me on a level that I'm looking to be met. So that's a really interesting one, because my heart still yearns, and I really have to try and kind of train myself to bring that love inward, and to support myself to get to a place where I'm in a really good space to meet someone that I want. And then there's obviously my love for my family, it's also an interesting one, so far away, and how to kind of keep that love alive and strong, and not be too severed with the disconnection of just face phone digitized contact and love, you know. And I think being open to having a softness of love for everyone that I come into contact with. That's also a constant learning of how to practice love in the world, you know. Release judgment. And
yeah, it's true. You have to be open for love to receive love.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you said it so beautifully. So I think we covered so many topics, and we can slowly go to the end. So just for the end, a few quick questions, few sentences answers from you.
Or just a word, you know.
Or just a word, whatever you feel like. Okay. So, the first question. If there's one thing that you can change in the world, and you can change it instantly for everyone, what would that be?
Ooh. Turn hate to love. Self-hatred to love. Hate for others to love. Imagine what a world would be like in that. Oh my gosh.
This, when you said self-hatred to love like this, went so deep in me. Because actually, when you said turn hate to love, I didn't even think about self-hatred. But wow, this is... Like, you can see this everywhere in the world.
Be revolutionary, hey?
I love your answer. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, amazing.
I don't hate it.
I have one question that we were cracking about yesterday.
Yes.
So, in your mind's perfect house or place or even this farm or whatever, what's the one piece of furniture or room that you imagine having? Like, what's your dream place like?
Oh, it's such a good question.
This is a good question because this is the one. Yesterday I had like a half an hour, like my life philosophy around it, and my own vision of life. And you asked me this, and I was like, a piece of furniture? Are you kidding me?
I have to just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, whatever you have redecorated many times already, you know, like in your head. Oh, right now it looks like this.
I think I would have like maybe a circular or an octagon shaped room with some sunroofs and plants and a deck and like with a fireplace. And I think there would be like a side room, so that would be like the dance floor or the creation space or whatever, you know, and with speakers and sound instruments. And then on the side, there would be so many dress-up clothes.
I love this.
Lots and lots of clothes to play around with, and shoes and earrings and hats and glasses and lipsticks and just like a place to just go and create with your look.
That's amazing. So you allow yourself to be so many versions of you, like to discover all yourself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love it. It's amazing.
I'm a little bit like obsessed with clothes.
It is good. No, I feel you. I think it's like a women thing, you know.
Yeah,
we
it's
all
so fun,
like
you know.
clothes.
Yeah. Things that are aesthetically beautifully pleasing, you know, and that make you feel good. Great question.
Okay. And the last one. What would be one advice that you would give to yourself 5 years ago?
Oh. 5 years ago.
Well, we can also say 10.
It would be slow down, breathe. Do you really need to be doing all of this stuff? Is there anything that you can channel your energy towards and not do it all?
Beautiful.
That's it.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh my god, that was the most incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
Thanks for the time and for the invitation and for the thought that goes into this podcast. It's so great.
Yeah,
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
so
everyone
much.
for listening. Thank you for being with us.
Hopefully you live as inspired as we are.
Lovely to know you more, friends.
Yeah. Likewise.
Lots of love.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.